Alright, so in this video we're going to review the How to Paint Citadel Miniatures book that just came out along with the whole range. As you can see, it's a fairly thick book. In the past I've had a couple copies of the old How to Paint Citadel Miniatures, and they've been of varying usefulness. So why would I go out and spend the money on this one? Well, partly because of the situation I'm in where I'm painting lots of videos and I like to use GW paints because that's what videos people want to see. So this is to give me a head start on the techniques that these paints are designed to use. Does everybody need to buy this? No. And in fact, it's going to be difficult to get good value out of it unless you're using doing lots of different armies. So what they do is they start out by doing different sections here on the different techniques in general. So this is useful for anybody. And then this part here, section 2, is armies. And so we do a Tyranid army, orcs and goblins, Herodrim, Lord of the Rings, Empire army, Space Marines, the Aurora chapter, which is basically, what is that? That's the Meltagun guys, green. Somebody's gonna tell me, and it's on the tip of my tongue. Anyways, Tomb Kings, another Lord of the Rings, and then Dark Eldar. So most people aren't going to find that terribly useful, although you can get some other combinations out of that, like painting combinations, how these paints are all supposed to be used. And as well, there's a video, and the video basically covers all the same stuff, and then 2 of the armies here. So it's a DVD, of course, not high definition, unfortunately. So what we do is we go through the different sections. So rather than just give you a review of the book, I'm going to try to, or give you an overview, I want to give you a review. So is it useful? Absolutely. There's some really great tips in here. Even somebody like me who's been painting for a long time, it's great to have some of these things reinforced and see them visualized very, very professionally. So they talk about dry brushing, which we all know how to do, but gives you a bit more tips about that. We're talking about applying washes, masking things for spraying, tips on spray paint troubleshooting, which is great. They talk about what the different ranges, what they're going to do for you, and why you would want to buy them. So yeah, okay, maybe it's partly marketing. Talks about the layer range, again, what it does, and it gives you very good examples of what is layering. Because unless you're familiar with the hobby, you may not be that familiar with exactly what all this stuff is. They talk about basing your models. They give you some examples here of iconic color schemes, which is very useful. A lot of these things, though, are on the website. So if you go onto GW's website and you see their painting guides, they show you essentially. So here's the back. There's the DVD. Here's a very, very useful set of pages, and this is all on the GW website. So you don't need to try to decipher this here. But basically what you have is you have a listing of different types of things you might want to paint. So Blood Angels, for example, you start with this color, you wash it, and you give it these 2 layers, and then you can glaze it. Or you can give it a dry brush. And the way that I've interpreted this is the dry brush is optional, depending on how you want to do this, because I don't think you'd want to dry brush after doing 2 layers. So that's my way of thinking. So this is very, very useful, but is available on the website. As well, available on the website is this conversion guide. So most people aren't going to go out and buy this whole range. They're going to try to supplement. Okay, I've got red gore, and so I don't need to buy Wazdaka red, for example. I have I don't know, pick another one. Beastal brown. I'm not going to buy Mornfang brown. Now these are not exact matches. These are just kind of the close ones. For example, Mornfang brown is a lot more reddish brown than the Beastal brown. But it gives you a good guide and maybe a starting point. So when you're replacing your paints, you run out of Goblin green. What are you going to buy? You're going to buy War Boss green. So that's nothing to do with this book, though. Okay, so back to this book. What do you have here? Well, so you have essentially what it is somebody going through, buying a battle force, adding a couple of the things, and painting it all, and telling you how to get from beginning to end. So very, very useful if you're starting out a new army and looking to do some of their exact schemes. Now obviously you can swap things out, like if you have an accent color like purple here, you could do that with one of their blue suggestions. I'm going to be working on a Dark Eldar army, and I think I'm going to use this guide quite extensively, but I will also supplement some other colors too that I want. But you can see here, so they talk about building this army, so it looks a lot like a battle force. So you have your Reavers, you have a, oh my goodness, I'm drawing blanks here. So you have basically a battle force plus a character and another another heavy support choice. So that's the kind of flavor that you have. One of the things it doesn't have that would have been useful is okay, so here's what you need to buy to start your army. What paints do you need to get to do all this exactly? Like, because it's, some people complain this is just a paint by number thing, and I have no issue with that. Actually, I think that's a great idea. You want to help people with this hobby. So what would have been good is at the very beginning, you know how they used to have in their Heavy Metal Masterclass articles, here's all the list of paints that we used to get to the end. That would have been a good idea, I think, here. The Orc army is nice, except I find that it ends up looking very, very black, because that's what they spray painted at black, and they wanted to make it easy to paint. But that's a bit of a drawback there. But they show everything, including the bases and how to spray things, and give you tips of how to get through big units. So very, very handy. They give you different options. So this one here is you spray it white and you wash the guys, or shade them, I should say. Whereas other ones you'll base coat it and shade it and highlight it. So lots of different techniques, pretty useful, reasonably well laid out. Some other cool things like special effects. So you got rust and you have variegated, whatever, the brassy sort of a thing. You have paint chips and weathering. So these are very helpful tips. A lot of these things are available online and in White Dwarves, but it's a kind of a one-stop thing. So if you're starting the hobby out and you don't know where to start, this is a good option if you can afford it. In Canada, it's like $60. I think in $50 in the States. Might be a little bit less. So it's depending on your affordability. If you're starting one of these armies, it could be quite useful. I think you've probably seen this, but it has a stand, so you can stand it up on your paint table here. And let's see if I can get a spot where it makes sense. So you have your instructions here. So I'm working through these stages, and there's my book right in front of me, and I can paint away. So that's a neat idea. Again, not looking for problems, but in the execution of it, it's kind of back and forth. So you kind of go from being a portrait to a tabloid and back and forth again. Obviously, all of these are in tabloid format, so side to side, but the sorry, not tabloid, landscape, what am I talking about? But there are a couple of pages where it just doesn't quite make sense why they didn't switch it. So that's not super consistent, and could make it easier to read if it stuck with one, but not a big problem, I guess. Very, very high quality pictures, very, very good production level on it, and so for that I'll give it top marks. Great book, probably the best one that they've made to date, in my opinion, and especially because it coincides with a new set of paints. Makes a lot of sense to get this. It's interesting that they chose to do a green chapter, because in the past they've made How to Paint Space Marines books, so I suspect that they picked a sort of a non-mainstream chapter, although, well, these are the Aurora Marines. I think that they picked that because they're going to do another book probably in a year's time, How to Paint Citadel, or How to Paint Space Marines. But that's just a guess. Nothing wrong with that. They're trying to make money. It's a business. So yeah, if the money isn't the problem for you, then it's a great book. I think it's well executed. The DVD is a nice addition. I don't know how much value it adds, especially considering people like me put lots of painting videos out there. But it is well done, and it's high quality. It's not HD, which would have been nice. But yeah, let me know what you think of this. If you have any other questions about the book, I'd be happy to answer them. And yeah, check out my other videos on the review of the new paint sets.